Hi everyone, it's been a while, but welcome back. Yes, I don't have glasses anymore. More on that later. Today I'm getting ready for the upcoming race that's in 2 days on Wednesday, weather pending. If you're new to the channel or a returning subscriber, viewer, whatever the case may be, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And again, that's not just me saying thank you for paying attention to what I do. It's just a genuine thank you for appreciating the work that I'm doing here and sharing it with the world and all the things that you do for me. I really do appreciate it. I apologize that it's been a while since the last time I've been out here or brought a video to you guys, but summer went out with a bang up here in New England. It's not technically over yet, obviously, but we had a full week of 90+ degree weather just to smack us right in the face right as summer was starting to wind down. Now we've got infinite rain, and well, we're in hurricane season too, so I doubt that that's going to happen because there's a big one that's supposed to come this way, but really doubtful. Anyway, like I said at the top, I've got a race on Wednesday, supposedly, pending weather. The forecast does not look good. Every single day I look since last week, the number for percentage of rain goes up more and more. Anyway, maybe I'll just have to change my plans for next year and go race somewhere that races full time. We'll figure that out at some point. Today on the agenda, well, my crew chief has me doing some work. Yes, I do have a new crew chief. A guy who's been around, I've known him a long time, Joe. He came by and we were hashing out stuff, and as you can see, we actually have the car on scales already. I am going to wait till the rain goes away a little bit before I go get fuel so that we can make sure this thing is race weight before the feature. But my task is I have to get under the car. I might not even jack it up. I think I want it at ride height for this. And I need to basically measure the wheelbase. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure it off of the lower ball joint on the wheels all the way to the center of the axle in the back of the car. And I'm going to do it at ride height so that it's as accurate as I can possibly get it. I don't really know if it's going to work out that way, but I'm going to try. And because if you try to measure your wheelbase when you've got caster and camber and stuff in the car, it's not going to be accurate because now your kingpin angle's all moved on the front tire, and that's going to change your wheelbase. So what I need to do is I might even string the car. Who knows it at this point, but I've got a bunch of stuff I need to do. Then we have to go through and we have to check the front geometry, which is that bump steer gauge that my brother got me that's sitting over there where my thumb is on the shelf, and go through that and see if we can get this thing ironed out as close to humanly possible as we possibly can. Okay, that's enough talking. I have to get to work, otherwise my kid's gonna get home from school before I'm even done. So we need to get started. I don't have anything connected up right now. Like, the ball joints are still kind of loose. We don't have the sway bar hooked up. I don't even know if I'm running that one yet. I think those are the right shocks. I'm not even sure. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're not going to measure from the top of the ball joint. We're going to measure from the grease zerk, because that's the very direct center of the ball joint, and it's not subject to the forward and back movement of caster, camber, toe, etc. Well, not really toe, but caster, camber. And so I'm going to try to get a tape measure on that, because at least it's down lower than the frame rail on both sides. I don't have to try to measure the top because the top is still bent from caster and stuff. So grease zerk on the bottom. What I'll do is I'll find me a tape measure, whichever one I end up using. I might take a piece of tape and some brake clean and clean the bottom of the ball joint where the grease zerk is as much as possible. Duct tape this to the grease zerk so that it's like touching it, because it's a one-man show in here. And I'll run the tape back and I'll find the exact center of the axle, and I'll mark that with a paint pen that I think I left in my car. and it's pouring out, but I'll go and I'll measure back to that on both sides. At least that'll give me a really good idea of what the wheelbase should be, and I'm really hoping that it's square, and if not, we're gonna have to be altering it. If you guys watched the series, I think it was a 5-part series that I put out like last year or last winter or whatever it was, about re-clipping the rear of this car by myself. I did measure the wheelbase. I don't remember how exactly I did it. I might have done it off the lower ball joint, but this is a stock frame car. And stock frame cars have these little football holes in the bottom of the car that are ovals. And that's part of the places that you'll measure the data from. Like they call them datum, D-A-T-U-M points. And you can get hold of the blueprints for these metric cars, like the G-body cars. And you can actually measure, they give you all the measurements, front, back, side to side, certain specific points in the chassis, the X in the center of the car. That X is pretty important. So I measured that when I put the clip on, and I measured from the center of the cross member up front back to the corners, and that was square. At least by measurement, it said it was square. So I also tried to measure the wheelbase, but I noticed that it was a little bit off. It was in the range, but it was a little off, but I think I might have measured it externally. So that would make a lot of sense. But when I welded the car up, I welded it up based solely off of the datum points and all of the factory measurements from when I put the car back together. So hopefully when I get under here and measure the wheelbase, I'll find out why the car was loose the whole time, and maybe I can adjust it. I'm just kind of hoping that that's the case, because if you followed me, you've known that I have been completely unable to fix a loose condition in this car when we switched over the rules to have, you know, these special full floating rears with with spools in them. Like, we used to run an open differential in these cars with stock shocks and everything, and that made them a complete handful, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. But then they locked the rears in them, which is more race car stuff. Did a whole bunch of rules that I wasn't ready for, and I have no idea how to fix. And then we got to a point where anytime I touch the throttle, it's loose, no matter what springs, no matter what wedge, no matter what I did. And I'm like, well, it's got to be out of alignment, right? So this is what's going to tell me exactly what it is, hopefully. And it's something that I probably should have done immediately after I put the clip in the car, but this isn't my job, this isn't my life, this is a hobby. It's the back burner of all back burners, constantly. When you got a family, a house, a job, all the different responsibilities that I have hanging around. So we're getting there. Again, you got to remember, this is 4 races. 4 after clipping the car. I think we're catching up pretty quick. So it's not like it's taking me 4 years to do this. This is 4 races. So we're getting there. So I'm going to wait for the rain to end so I can get my paint pen out of the car. And I don't think I'd really need to wait. I probably have something here to market. So I'm going to get to work again. I just felt like I should break into whatever I was going to do with that little update. The results are not exactly what I was looking for, but when I measured The left side had no interference under the car. It was basically ball joint to wherever I measured to, nothing there. On this side, you've got the exhaust that runs straight down and then takes a left and ends here. Now that's below the frame rail, and that's throwing off my measurement, so I'm probably gonna have to take the exhaust off from wherever it bends and get it out from under the car in order for me to get a proper measurement from there back to be equal with whatever I took from there to there. Which stinks, but I mean, sometimes that's just how you work on cars. You always think something's gonna be straightforward and easy until you do it, and then you figure out, oh, there's 15 more steps involved. Perfect. So that 20, 30-minute job turns into 4 hours real quick. But at least this isn't too bad to take apart. I gotta take 2 clamps off the frame that are solid welded on to hold the pipes from flopping around. A couple strap clamps that I got to the X member of the chassis. 2 exhaust, you know those circular friction clamps that I put on the late model? Yeah, that's what I put on here. So basically I just take those off, hit it with a hammer, knock the tailpipes off. Hopefully it's just the tailpipes. That would be really nice, so I don't have to take the whole exhaust system off. I'll get under there and check. A little tight quarters down there because I'm rather large and this thing's only on ride height blocks, but I think we'll get it done. As with anything else I do, it's a little off, but it's supposed to be. With these cars, if you start, you got a stock 4-link in these G chassis cars, you start altering the ride height side to side, it's going to change the wheelbase on the car. So again, it's all in geometry and how these cars work. And I'm not too concerned with the difference that I got. What I am concerned with is my measuring practices and that I want to be as accurate as possible. And I just don't know if I am or not. So I'm gonna have to take a little break and I'm gonna devise a solution to where I can get a completely accurate wheelbase measurement with the tools that I have and make it repeatable for both sides so that I don't run into an issue of, this, because I got an aftermarket rear in the car. What if where I'm measuring, say I'm measuring to like the trailing arm and where the bolt goes through. What if when that was manufactured, one was off by maybe a degree? You know what I mean? That might set off the wheelbase. So what I want to do is just make some kind of jig and just kind of put it on the axle tube so that I can find direct center and I can put a level on it so that I know that it's, level straight down. And then I'll just remeasure it again to that point, and then I'll set it on that side and remeasure as I level it to that side. And I'll get at least center of the ball joint to the center of the axle tube on both sides as level and as straight as I possibly can, because I want to figure out all of my variables before I go through the trouble of just saying, I did it, it's not right. So I wasn't really able to get a completely accurate measurement of wheelbase, which I'm currently working on right now, which is why I have this string in my hand. But I used this string to give me an idea of how square the car and all the wheels are kind of with each other. So what I did was I couldn't really figure out how to measure to square the wheels together and measure all that stuff based off of anything on the rear end. So I said, okay, well, the rear's straight. I know that because I haven't hit the wall or I haven't wrecked anything. And I did straighten it before, so it should be good to go. I took this string and I kind of just draped it over the axle tube, and I used it as sort of a redneck plumb bob. And I just kind of waited until it stopped swinging, which took a while. And I got everything out of the way, and I measured it right up against the frame from the front lower ball joint to the string, which is the front leading edge of the axle tube, because, you know, gravity pulls down square in a constant. And I got a measurement from both sides with no interference. Perfect, okay? What I need to do is correct the rear end in the car, because my suspicions, I think, were correct. Now, we're not off by a lot. We really aren't. But again, like I said before, with these cars, when you start jacking them up with ride heights, the 4-link rear is very easy for the geometry to change where the wheelbase and where the wheels are in the car. So I think my problem all along has been that the right rear has not been in correct alignment, and this kind of proved it, because I was off by a lot on the right rear. It was showing that the right rear was pointing towards the outside of the car when it should be pretty straight. You know, that's kind of race car alignment 101. Have the car be square, have all the wheels be straight, everything squared with the front and rear tires. And we weren't. So I went under and I made an adjustment to the right rear lower trailing arm mount, and I welded some washers onto it while I wasn't filming. Sorry, I forgot, I was a little busy. And I moved the rear back more straight to what it should be, okay? And that's kind of me right now. I'm kind of hoping that that works, and that that will keep me from, every single time I hit the gas in this car, spinning out. Because if the rear end in your car is pointed, I mean, you can read this in any book, magazine, article on the internet or whatever. This is just a refresher course, but if your rear end is pointed to the right, like mine, it will always be loose no matter what you do, which is kind of what I thought it was doing all along. So I adjusted it, restrung it, remeasured it, and now it's square. We'll see what happens now, because we were off by like a 1/4 inch, you know, and a 1/4 inch can make all the difference in the alignment of these cars and how it feels and how it drives. So I aligned it, I measured it again, and now it's saying that now it's saying it's straight. So I think it's time to put the exhaust back together in it and start moving forward, because we got to get to working on the front geometry of the car. I still got to do caster camber toe. I don't know if I'm going to get the bump steer. I really hope I do, but that means I got to take the springs out of the car, put the car on jack stands at ride height. Boy, it's a nightmare to do, but I got to get it right. And I know that I've done this bump steer in this car before at this specific ride height, so I'm not really that worried about it, especially when the car drives in and through center as well as this does. So I might just skip that. I might just go do geometry, might go get gas out of the trailer, might fill up the tank, get the tire pressures right, throw it on scales. But what I am going to do is I'm not going to just skip working up front altogether. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the front end, and I'm going to make sure that the steering box and the sway bar and everything is in the car square. If it's not, I'm going to have to find a way to figure that out. So we still got some alignment work to do. Well, that's great. Now I got 2 inches of frickin' water in my garage. Oh, great. That's an electrical cord. Watch as I electrocute myself touching this to get it out of the water. Oh, where did this come from? Oh, there's my scales. That's great. Well, at least Joe was good enough to not put it on the ground. Thank you, Joe. That saved my scales. Great. Now I have to try to get this water the hell out of my garage. Christ, that's like 2 inches of water. Where did this come from? This just started. That explains it. My drainage doesn't quite work anymore. Awesome. I'll just shut that and hope for the best. As I slowly back away from the flood that is coming in my garage for no reason. I literally, you saw me open the door and see all the crap there, but under here, I dug like a foot deep trench all the way across the front of my garage. And I put it out to the lower section of my yard over here. And then I just kind of filled it in with stones because it's just stones. It's not dirt. You know, it should be able to go down into that trench and drain out. Apparently that doesn't work anymore because now I've got like 2 inches of water in the front of my garage. So that's great. And that's right where I'm supposed to be working. So I think I'm gonna just do the steering box stuff so that I don't step in like 3 inches of water and get wet feet. And make sure that's square, make sure everything in the front end is square, the idler arm, the center link, all that stuff. And then hopefully it doesn't rain too much more. And I can get this car rolled back onto scales and do my caster camber toe, make sure that's set properly, and hopefully we can, dang it, this is really bothering me. I mean, do I have to put sandbags outside my garage every time I'm here and it starts raining now? I thought I fixed this crap. Oh well. At least there's nothing else on the floor, but water and a wood structure is not exactly the best thing in the world. This, alright, I'm gonna try to deal with this crap, and I'll get back to you when I'm done. Yep, the trench that I had definitely was not working anymore, so I went out and put my boots on, which I'm now covered in crap. My jacket is not long enough, so it just drains onto my pants, which now I'm soaked there as well. But we got some results. It seems to be draining back out. I dug a little bit of a hand trench to get it out of here. The ground is now wet, but I got 2 dehumidifiers in the form of an air conditioner and an actual dehumidifier running. So that's good. I'll probably grab a broom and just kind of get it out the doorway. But now it is actually draining back out. Hopefully it stays that way. And I don't have to do this again, but I know I will because my yard is graded very poorly for this type of garage. I really want to build a new one where I raise the platform up with concrete, but if I could afford that, then come on, I wouldn't be racing this thing. So now that I'm soaked, I think I could take all this stuff off. Maybe I'll dry out in here a little bit and just keep working since I got boots on, and the wet floor ain't gonna affect me too bad. I can get back to working on squaring the steering up, make sure that's clear, making sure the geometry looks pretty good, and then I'll start throwing the exhaust back on probably, and getting the front geometry, at least an eyeball on it, and then I'll do caster camber toe. Maybe I'll do bump steer tomorrow, but I kind of doubt it because I'm really short for time. I have to work tomorrow, and then when I get home, I got precious little time to really get this thing done, and time sucks because I can't use it the way I want. If you're not using stainless steel exhaust tubing, which pretty much every low dollar racer isn't doing, you're going to want to take your exhaust apart every once in a while and just clean it up, because a lot of times the tech inspectors want this stuff to come apart for inspection. So what I'm gonna do is, oh yeah, you can see it gets corroded in there pretty quickly because it pulls exhaust, or the exhaust will condense water or humidity into it. So I'm gonna take my flap disc and just kind of clean these up with the drill so that it makes life a lot easier, so that I can just put it back on with the clamps, zip, done. Well guys, I think I'm gonna have to throw in the towel today. You can see it's actually starting to dry up a little bit. That was really no time at all. But man, I went and tried to square up the steering box and that seemed to go okay. Couldn't really do a heck of a lot to do that, but that's all right. Sway bar looks, could be worse. I could put it on stock mounts and make my life difficult, or whatever, that's not a big deal. I got the exhaust back on. That went on really well. I did a little bit of adjusting there, so that's good. I really hope this does something that I can feel. The whole time for the last couple years, I've been saying, hey, you know, I really hope this works. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, I hope I can feel the change. I'm really not confident in us racing on Wednesday, but you know what? We're going to prepare like we are, and I think I got to throw in the towel. I'm really sick of being soaking wet, but at least I got the flood out of the garage. So that's a good thing. That's starting to dry up. We got the spring set. When Joe was here, we already had the thing on scales. So, I mean, we're really just kind of at the point where I got a set caster camber toe, even though I didn't really hit anything. I'm going to check it anyway. And put it back on scales again, and we should be good to go. So, fingers crossed, this actually works. And hopefully I'll have some race footage in a separate video, but if I don't, I'll have something else. I'm sure I will. But I'll see you tomorrow, because tomorrow's the day I have to play musical cars, more than likely in the rain, and have this thing loaded up and ready to go. Well, it's now Tuesday, day before what was supposed to be race day, and I use that in past tense because, well, they canceled. Forecast did not look good in any way, and I can't really blame them because they don't own the racetrack. They simply lease it. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I'm sure they probably lost money on it and they didn't want to. But I'm here anyway in the shop. I'm really unsure of what to do now. I mean, racing season is pretty much coming to an end. I got like one planned race left, which is the World Series in October, but I still want to race, so what should I do? Do I get the late model in here now and try to get that ready? And I'd have to pump a bunch of money into that thing too if I did, because I'd have to buy a seat and belts and a net and fabricate stuff and maybe put a fuel cell in it if I feel like not burning to death, if I back it in the wall. And I don't really know, to be honest with you. I don't know what I want to do. I was thinking about, since this is an option, maybe race this thing at Stafford. I've already been there in someone else's car this year. All I really have to do is just change the mufflers and tires, which I have a few, not a lot, and the rear end, which is, well, sitting right here. I just have to put spider gears in it. I got the right fuel cell, I got the right engine, it's already sealed and we're allowed to race it there. So that's an option. But anyway, if I'm gonna race there, I might have to change that, because I'd rather be legal. Just a hunch. But now I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens next. I'm sure I'll get to work on the late model soon, and this thing still is not finished yet, to be fair. But I think we should go to Stafford. They're not racing this Friday, but they are racing next week, and I believe that's their fall final, which isn't their final race, but it's close. And I'd really like to get out, at least with my own car, and see what I can do there, you know, and I don't know, have some fun, I guess. We'll see. But for now, I think I'm still going to just keep forging forward on this thing. It still needs a few things, like to go through the front end and to do some other stuff, but maybe I'll get to work on the Stafford stuff too. Why not? I mean, couldn't hurt, right? See, the rear that I have is just a factory rear. They allow disc brakes. I got all the mounts for it. I got the lines for it. I really should just go on Rock Auto and buy some calipers and pads, and then hop on like Speedway and get the right hardware for the lines that go to it and stuff. We'll deal with that. I think it has a spool in it right now, which Stafford, you're only allowed open rears, no spools. But that's not a big deal. In these boxes here, I have stock body shocks, because when you go to race Stafford, you can't run outboard shocks like this. You have to run the stock ones, and I put the provisions back in there for it. I also have in this giant pile of crap the correct mufflers, which, oh, and I have to put this on as well. I gotta put their very specific carburetor plate or spacer plate on. And I got mufflers in here somewhere. I'd have to go looking for them. I'm sure, maybe I have mufflers. Ah, yes, there they are. Spiral Flow. I think they're even discontinued, but that doesn't really matter. I have the right headers. The engine's sealed for Stafford. Everything else is fine. I have some tires. Well, I mean, what do you think? This is one of the few seasons that I've ever raced where I just don't care about points. Because I only race 6 times a year, so, well, 5 this year, I suppose, but I just don't care. You know, it's not really meaningful to me. If I actually raced somewhere full time, maybe I would care, but like right now I have a race car and I'm not using it, and I'd like to use it, so I think it would be a good time to just go out and do it. I mean, if you're gonna put it at risk for points, you might as well put it at risk for just racing it anyway. Why the heck not? You know, it's there to be raced, and I think it would be a good idea. I gotta go through and make sure all my safety stuff is proper. I got the right fuel cell in it, and I got all the right stuff, like the ground cable, wherever that is over there, and the right box on the top, and I probably have to go through it and put better fuel in it, but again, this is not that difficult, you know, with the cutout in the door for the pipes. I wouldn't even cover it. Maybe I'd throw some duct tape over it so it looked right, but I'd pull the exhaust off of it and that would be it. And the interior, all the safety belts and everything, they're all up to date. It would pass tech inspection. Stafford made me do this. I had to extend my firewall, and then it passed tech. I still have the original tech inspection sticker from it. By the way, it's all dry in here. I dug that trench and the whole place just drained right out, so that's good. If you look under here, obviously they're not NASCAR anymore. I also have a license, so it wouldn't really be too difficult for me to go race the fall final or even the last 2 races at Stafford if I wanted to. And then if I wanted to go back to Thompson for the final race of the year, I wouldn't even really have to change the rear. I would probably just throw the spool back in it because that's what we've been working on. So, I mean, the weights would be a little off, but I could easily put lead back in the car. I got tons of that hanging around. I got a bunch of hangers still left. I could mount a few pieces if I needed to. What do you think? So I got the Stafford rear out, and I remembered why I took it out in the first place. This has been straightened a few times, and these tubes are only like press in. So it's got a little bit of an indent in one side on the right rear. It is straight, but it does leak fluid. So what I was thinking of doing, and I know people are gonna cringe when I say this, I was thinking about welding the tubes in completely all the way around on both sides and then straightening it. I got a 10-ton Porta Power right here. I've straightened about 50 of these before because race car. And I'm willing to do it, but I do want it to be a little bit stronger than what it is. I mean, these GM 7.5 rears are a little wimpy. The gears can take a lot. If you have racing axles, they can take a lot in, well, street stock terms. But the tubes tend to, even if you have a little off-road excursion in the infield, they will bend. So I think I'm going to clean them up as best I can. I already got the brake clean and a brush out. I'm going to clean it up. I'm just going to weld the tubes all the way around, nice big beads. Then I'm going to check it for straight. And if it's not straight, I'm going to hook a chain onto it and pour to power it straight. Well, I definitely done better, but I've also done worse. She's welded all the way around, and if it leaks now, I'll just goop it. Next, I gotta let her cool all the way off. I wanna try to strip all the goop and factory undercoat and whatever else is stuck to this thing because it is disgusting. I wanna strip that off. I can pretty much guarantee it's not straight anymore after welding it. Once it's cool, we will straighten it. And hopefully it comes out straight and I didn't ruin this thing. But, you know, I should have tacked it and whatever. Anyway, just welded her right up. So that's good. Had a couple issues. I tried to clean it out with a toothbrush and some brake clean. Scrubbed all sorts of inside it and tried to hose it out and blow it with the blowgun. And it kept just starting to squeeze some of this oil out, but not bad. So hopefully that'll be a little stronger. We can use that at Stafford. Got all the stuff hooked up to it. I'm debating on what I really want to do though. I do have these old brake lines that I've repurposed. They're going to go all the way to the end. I got this one down here. I had to take it off in order to weld. And I bought new calipers and pads and banjo bolts, everything. What I'm going to do is I actually bought the factory brake hose that comes on a stock caliper instead of buying like some trick racing, you know, braided hose with an adapter and all that stuff. It'll be fine. Trust me, it will be fine. I'm just going to run the brake line basically all the way to the caliper mount so that the brake hose can just right where it needs to go, and it can still slide back and forth on the pins, no problem. Hopefully, I didn't cook the grease either, so fingers crossed this cools off good and we don't have to worry about a heck of a lot. You can see there's a relative haze in the lights behind me, and that's from welding and the grease getting hot, or the oil I should say getting hot, but I'm still waiting on parts now. So I think I'm just gonna end the video here. I haven't been able to get one out to you guys in a long time because of my eye surgery. I'm still dealing with that. Raining out, not having a good week to work on the car when it's 95 degrees out, and I'm just gonna suffer in here, and it sucks. But I will bring you some racing content soon. I still got to get parts in for this thing. I mean, we're still working, you know, but I really just kind of miss interacting with you guys and putting out stuff for you and trying to just spread the word of short track racing. But again, I got to go get parts. I got to get some sheet metal to fix this because frankly, I'm kind of over it. I want the car to look a little bit better, and I want it to be a little bit more strong. I want to get some more steel. I'm probably going to call some people up, see what I can do. But thank you all so much for watching and hanging in there with me. I know this is kind of a weaker video, I'll be fair, because I really wanted to go, okay, we're getting prepped, we're getting ready, we're gonna go racing, and then make another video when we raced. That didn't happen. So now it's like, okay, here's my change of plans. This is what we're gonna do. That's what you guys are gonna get this week. I do apologize, but I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things, that's all. So thank you all again. I greatly appreciate it. Please subscribe if you have not already. It doesn't cost you a thing. And if I get enough subscribers, it might cost Google something, which would be nice. So tell your friends if you think they're gonna be interested in short track racing, mechanical stuff, fabrication work, whatever the heck I do out here. So I just like sharing what I do with people and trying to spread the word. So thank you all again for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I'm gonna go put eye drops in my bloodshot eyes. I'll see you next time.